Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Bina, Chairman of the Hall of Fame Board of Governors. Tonight at this 23rd induction, I am privileged to induct Dr. Jane Erin and Dr. Tinsley III into our Leaders and Legends Hall of Fame, whose mission is dedicated to preserving, honoring, and promoting our field's tradition of excellence. Imagine, if you will, Jane and Tuck as kindergarten students, both very bright. Jane from Western Pennsylvania, very shy, and Tuck from Eastern Kentucky, very much not shy at all. Tonight they will stand before us, both very much beloved, both highly respected, both at the very top of their generation of excellence, most deserving of our standing ovation when they are presented the prestigious bronze plaque crafted by Andrew Dakin. The Hall of Fame Board thanks APH for housing the Hall of Fame, our field's premier highest honor. It is important, though, to note that while housed at APH, the Hall of Fame is an independent body governed by a separate board that selects the inductees. The Hall Board is comprised of Bill Weiner, Julie Hapeman, Justin Gardner, Bernadette Kappan, Kim Zebehazy, Lee Nazi, Mark Reichard, Marynell McLennan, and Kay Farrell, who serve with me. Tonight we are honored to have 4 Hall of Fame inductees: Dr. Kay Farrell, Carl Augusto, Helen Keller, and Annie Sullivan. Actually, Ms. Keller and Ms. Sullivan are not here, but they are in the Hall of Fame. And I use this to point out the distinguished group that Jane and Tuck will join, and to which each will add further value. Dr. Farrell and Carl, will you please stand? Our first inductee is Dr. Jane Erin, who is nominated by Penny Rosenblum. Dr. Erin got her foundation in our field at the Western Pennsylvania School as a teacher and then supervisor of a multi-disability deafblind program. She then excelled at the universities of Arizona and Texas, preparing teachers, championing her students as a supportive role model and mentor. In Arizona, she implemented an outreach program that prepared teachers from the Navajo and Hopi nations. Jane distinguished herself, contributing to our field's literature as a prolific writer, authoring 27 journal articles. We thought you were going to make it 30. Book chapters, and edited and co-authored books with Hall of Famers Susan Spungen and another someone named Natalie Barriga. Truly impressive company. Dr. Erin served on the JVIB editorial advisory board and was the lead editor of both JVIB and Review, and is the current editor of the New Review. Some retirees just don't know how to retire, and thank goodness Jane hasn't totally ridden off into the Arizona sunset. Her encouragement in mentoring authors, especially first-timers who didn't think they had the right stuff to get published, is Hall of Fame worthy. Rebecca Burr-Rector emphasized Jane's literature passion and credited her as one of our field's most gifted communicators, adding, quote, Jane's intrepid leadership confronted the scholarly research status quo that while it is vital to our profession, the mechanics are complex and not of interest to all readers. Dr. Erin encouraged authors to write so practitioners could understand and implement the findings, emphasizing that research theory can alter professional practice and ultimately affect students' lives, and that their writing can carry their ideas far beyond the walls of their classrooms. This practitioner focus, Jane admitted, was her most satisfying experiences of her professional career. Carl Augusto described Dr. Erin as a pioneer who helped shape the journal to be truly a voice within our field. Jane has been honored by the American Optometric Association and received the Mary Kay Bauman Award. She was the the ABC Braille and Project Slate lead researcher, and in her spare time served as CEC DVI president, and somehow still found time to sleep and eat ice cream. That's a little private joke. Penny Rosenblum, clearly the president of Jane Erin Fan Club, shared, "Jane is an inspiration and steadfast leader and advocate with a great sense of humor. She was my role model, sounding board, guide, and mentor who always rooted for me and paved the way for countless others." Ann Korn applauded Jane's information-rich and humor-filled presentations, sharing that Hall of Famer Jerry Scholl, hearing Jane speak for the very first time, was absolutely amazed, most impressed, and gave her high praise, saying, quote, "That woman can speak in paragraphs," end of quote. The once shy but fun-loving Jane once spiced up her presentation dressed as Minnie Pearl, complete with a dangling $2.98 price tag on her hat, and no doubt she shouted, "Howdy!" And once she and Ann dressed up teaching the anatomy class dressed as eyeballs. Ann was the right eye ocular dexter, and Jane certainly ocular sinister. Accordingly, we could call Dr. Erin a sinister visionary. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and applaud Dr. Erin as she comes forward.
Thank you very much. And I'm wondering who that person is that Tuck just described. It's kind of interesting to consider carefully who that is and how I managed to get up on this podium and think about the years that we have put into our profession, working with people with visual impairments, and each year gets a little bit better in some way, I believe. I deeply appreciate APH selecting me as an inductee in the 2024 year, and I do accept this, obviously, this invitation. And I also want to thank the committee for their work in selecting two new inductees, Tuck and myself. And congratulations also to Tuck for his award, well-deserved recognition, the Hall of Fame inductee. I haven't been back to APH for a number of years. It used to be that it was a regular routine that for the annual meeting, those of us from universities would be able to get together, share our ideas, learn from the APH staff, and so forth. And it's been a few years since I've actually been back here and see how much has changed, but how much has changed for an exciting and positive change in many ways. Last spring, on a camping trip with my husband, Ken, I stopped at a library in Blanding, Utah. Anybody know where Blanding is? Pretty little town on the border. A couple of you, okay. And this was so that I could participate on a Zoom call with Mary Nell McLennan and Bill Weiner related to the new journal that we have initiated, the new review. A few minutes into the call, Bill Weiner said, "I have a message on my screen for you, Jane. There's a Zoom call coming in. Somebody wants to talk with you." And when I opened the screen, I heard a familiar voice from my Texas years, Dr. Mike Bina. Dr. Bina was calling to tell me that I had been selected by APH as an inductee to the Hall of Fame. And at first I thought he must be joking, because since I know from my Texas year, Dr. Bina is skilled at embellishing the facts when needed. But I went right along with the joke, if you will, and Bill and Mary Nell, who were both on the Zoom, said that wasn't a joke and that I was being invited to be a member of the Hall of Fame. I recalled from my own experiences as a Hall of Fame committee member. I was on the committee that got to help in the decisions about who received that Hall of Fame recognition. And then I recalled from my own experience, as I mentioned, that Selecting inductees can be challenging, and capable professionals deserve recognition, but the influence of an individual in the community is almost impossible to measure over time. And that's the one thing that I think is vital, the fact that so many of our inductees have had regular ongoing contact with children and adults with visual impairments, and that has become, if you will, sort of a family reunion for the spring and the fall contacts with APH. Most of you have been affected or have been influenced by the work of at least one person on the Hall of Fame website, where 68 people now appear on the list of leaders. Some of the names you've already heard this evening: Natalie Barriga, Eleanor Fay, Kay Farrell, Ellen Koenig, Dr. Rick Welsh, Frank Hall, Randy Jose are among those who shaped my professional experiences through their teaching, their thinking, and their research. I hope that you will review the Hall of Fame website during the next few days and remember how many people have contributed to our field. One example for me was a lady named Dr. Sally Rogo, who taught in New York and also at the University of British Columbia. She was also a member of my doctoral committee between 72 and 84, and she mailed her comments to me, believe it or not, in an envelope with stamps on it, because email was not widely available at that time. Remember that? She encouraged me to write an article based on my dissertation, which was about the spoken language of blind students. And during that time, I realized that I was entering a whole new world, the world of academia. Dr. Rogow's ability to build research on existing knowledge reshaped my thinking. Some of those whose names are now listed on the Hall of Fame have become mentors to newcomers in the field through direct communication. As I review the names on our current Hall of Fame, I sometimes considered how varied we are as professionals. I do not feel like a leader or a legend. I feel like a 70-something-year-old woman who's grateful to have colleagues who are committed to providing the best learning opportunities for people who are blind or visually impaired. I very much appreciate the support of colleagues who nominated and supported me. From the University of Arizona, these people included Dr. L. Penny Rosenblum, who wrote the letter of nomination, as well as Dr. Irene Toper, Pam DeSteiger, Dr. Garrison Sinigini, Dr. Sung-Ye Hong, and Rebecca Berichter of JVIB, and Ann Korn, Professor Emerita from Vanderbilt University. In conclusion, I also want to thank my husband, Ken Kalina, for his support. Ken is a very retired TVI who was an advocate of the abacus in the early 1970s, and he published an article in JVIB encouraging the use of the abacus. Remember them? And I hope we still do. It was his one and only article by choice. His ability to take life as it comes makes every day an adventure, including many miles in our camper van. I accept the invitation for induction into APH's Hall of Fame in Blindness, and I'm honored to be part of what our profession has contributed to make the world a better place for people with and without visual impairments. I accept it with the appreciation for our continuing effort to make visual impairment another challenge of our ever-changing lives. Thank you very much.
Some of you may know our second honoree, nominated by Gary Mudd, Dr. Tuck Tinsley III. Dr. Tinsley began his career in 1968 as a Florida School for the Blind math teacher, then assistant principal, and then acting president. In 1989, he became the APH president, a position he retired from after 27 years. Tuck has received the Miguel Medal, the Bauman Vision Serve Distinguished Service, the Cosby Bill English Leadership Award, and is a distinguished graduate from Florida State, a proud Seminole. He served on the boards of AER, Vision Serve, and the Kentucky School Charitable Foundation. The purposeful reference to Tuck not being shy has served our field well. He is a collaborator extraordinaire, a bridge builder, a bringer together of people, even those with diverse views, for the common good. If anyone could negotiate world peace, the emissary and envoy would be Dr. Tuck Tinsley III. After every conversation, you are the beneficiary of his genuine, other-person focus being touched with his good, positive intentions. I remember the very first time Tuck called me sweetheart. And then I realized he calls everybody sweetheart. Even though you did, Tuck, I was never jealous. You still always made me feel special. Thanks, sweetheart. APH needed what Tuck brought, a welcome, refreshing Florida warm weather front. Clearly, it was an energetic new day in Dodge, and we loved it. His first day at APH is legendary. It forecasted the future. He stormed throughout the plant, introducing himself, genuinely valuing every employee. Tuck raised the APH profile with his people and student-centered, action-oriented leadership, and coupled with his strong financial acumen, he left APH on sound financial footing, including the building the endowment fund to cover programs or to fund programs not covered by federal appropriations. He ran a complex operation, worked with educators in all 50 states and 3 territories, meaningfully engaged the ex officio trustees, and nurtured relationships with every blindness organization. A strong Braille literacy advocate, he created the National Prison Braille Center at APH. He improved plant productivity and reduced costs, implementing Toyota's Kaizen Continual Improvement Management System. Consider these trend lines. In 1997, 15 people worked 2.5 weeks to produce the Braille Reader's Digest. By 1998, 5 people finished it in 4 days. And in 1994, APH had 17 projects, and 18 years later, Ralph Bartley is smiling, had 250 in development. That's called good inflation. I love this. I really love this. He stressed, even if a product benefited only one student, APH would do it. He turned APH's money-losing venture into money-making one from 1996's $3 million loss to 2001's $1 million profit. Because of Tuck's outstanding performance and Tuck's highly enthusiastic congressional presentations, federal appropriations increased markedly. Tuck promoted our field's historical preservation, establishing the APH Museum in 1994, and then taking over the AFB Miguel Library in 2009. And what many of you don't know, in 2000, at the Denver AER presentation on Gallery of Blindness Field Pioneers and Heroes, Dr. Tinsley in 2002 so embraced the concept, he offered it with open arms, a permanent home at APH for those 32 initial honored pioneers, establishing the Hall of Fame. With deserved irony, Tuck championed the Hall of Fame to recognize others, but he himself got caught in its net, and deservedly so. And with poetic justice, Tuck will become the first Kentuckian inducted into the Leaders and Legends of Blindness Hall of Fame. And as Tuck would say, and He would also be the first APH person inducted. Congratulations. We all love watching Tuck filled with joy congratulating the APH art contest winners. His respect for those we serve was on full display, and he was totally unaware that we were watching a leader with joy, genuine joy. Tuck's forte was public speaking. It was like he opened a box of chocolates. We knew it was going to be sweet and good, but we never knew exactly what we would get. But we were never disappointed. Tuck humbly will credit many outstanding people for APH's successes, deflecting credit that he mentored many, saying that they mentored him. Am I right, Tuck?
Yes, sir.
Tuck's contributions will have a long-term impact on our field. Gary Mudd nailed Tuck's essence, quoting Mr. Rogers, who reminded us that when confronted with life's harsh realities, to always look for the helpers. Look for the helpers. Dr. Tuck Tinsley III has been precisely that field-wide helper worthy to be in the Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and applaud Dr. Tinsley as he comes forward.
Thank you, Mike. That was nice. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Mike. I do appreciate it. I want to thank my good friend, Gary Mudd, for nominating me for this award. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it. I want to start by introducing some special people here tonight. My greatest contributions, my sons, Kyle and Troy. Stand, guys. My wife, Ginger. Kyle's daughters and my granddaughters, Skylar and Zoe. Would you stand, girls? The twins are now seniors, and I don't know how many were at the 2010 annual meeting, but these girls were 3, and I asked them to come up on the stage, so they came during a break, and they were standing behind the podium. Nobody could see them, and I said, I'd like to introduce you to my granddaughters. So I went back. Grabbed Zoe, I picked her up and said, this is Zoe, okay? Then I put her down and reached for Skylar, and Skylar shook me off. So I picked up Zoe again, and I said, this is Skylar. Do you all remember that? You were 3, do you really? We didn't tell the audience that. None of them got it. We had a joke on them. Anyway, also, I'd like to introduce my stepson, Stuart Backer, his wife, Adria, and their daughter and my granddaughter, Ava. You stand up just a second. Come on, Ava. I know you don't want to. Ava's a freshman this year. She's homeschooled, so her teacher is sitting right next to her. That's kind of neat. I also want to recognize my closest friend in the blindness biz, as he calls it, Carl Augusto, who came from New Jersey. He and his wife, Sue, and raise your hand, Carl, and Cliff Olstrom and Cindy from Tampa. Cliff was over the Lighthouse for the Blind in Tampa, to the Tampa Lighthouse for years. And he visited the printing house and did a lot of research and has published 2 books on great people in the blindness field. And Mike Hudson, if you see him, and ask Mike he'll order some and get them there for you. You can buy them. But Cliff did a wonderful job in that. He flew in Tampa. He still flies, just a little plane. And I always called him Sky King and called his secretary Penny. I love that. Anyway, Cliff, thanks. In 1967, I was junior at Florida State University. I was majoring in math education. So I knew I had to intern. And I saw a flyer that was advertising scholarship for someone who would teach the blind, math. Oh, I said, I've got to intern anyway. I applied for that scholarship. I'd never met a blind person. I was a junior at FSU. I got the scholarship because I was the only one that applied. And it was $200 a month for 8 months, so $1,600 I saved my parents. And the only obligations, the requirements were you had to take 5 specific courses, Braille, anatomy, the eye, materials and methods, so forth. You had to take 5 courses, and you had to intern in a program for the visually impaired. So, in the next year, I interned where, Judy? At the Florida School for the Deaf and Blind in St. Augustine. That's where I interned. And I was there for the internship, and I was gone. No. I fell in love with St. Augustine. I fell in love with the kids. I even had 2 calls from former students today. Not about this. They don't know anything about this, but it was just, I loved it and stayed there for 21 years. Carson Nolan retired from APH in 1987. And I'd been a math consultant for APH for a number of years. I also came up 2 summers, 5 weeks, each of 2 summers, lived at the Episcopal Seminary. Remember that, boys? And so I got a call from a interviewer, a search guy, and he said, would you be interested in interviewing for the job at APH? And I said, I've got my hands full. I said, there's no way. A 7th grader, James Thompson, had been roughhousing with another boy, and he was dropped on his head and died within the week. That was 2 weeks before they called. And so I said, the press, the stuff I'm dealing with, I can't do it. So I didn't. However, I did later visit with APH's board and convince me to come up and tell them what they really need. Well, I was from Eastern Kentucky, and they offered the job. I did accept, mostly because of APH's national impact on the lives of blind children. I accepted the job to begin in February of 1989. My wife was good with it. I asked Kyle, you'll remember this, I think. I said, Kyle, do you go to Kentucky? He said, if you buy me a Bowflex. Huh? Solaflex. Oh, okay. And then Troy asked him, and he said, if you buy me a pool table. I said, we'll do it. And so they stayed in Florida till the end of the school year. I came to Louisville in 89. My first 2 days in Louisville were very memorable, Phoebe. You won't believe it. What happened was I arrived on Sunday, February 12th, 1989. Got out of the car, got out my rental car and started heading to the board had rented a guest house on Top Hill Road for me to stay in. So it was a beautiful day, and as I got there, people had their windows down. I got out of my car and hear all this cheering, and I said, wow. And seriously, they were all the houses with the windows up. I went in, I walked up the ramp into my this guest house, and Louisville, February 12th, 1989, was Sunday, was playing UCLA, and Denny Crum had gone back to UCLA. They were playing UCLA. The game, when I got in the house, the game was tied, and Louisville was bringing the ball up the court with 10 seconds to go. Could win it. Stolen in half court. The guy comes down and takes a shot at the last second. Purvis Ellison blocks it. Clean block. Goaltending, Louisville lost by a bad call. That was my first, I just got here. Next morning, which was the 13th, Monday the 13th of February in 89, I got up and it had sleeted overnight. I had no idea. I did not know it had sleeted. I put on my new suit, put on my new shoes, and I was going to get there early. I stepped out on that ramp, and my feet went to the sky. And I slid all the way down the ramp, went back in, changed clothes, got into the printing house, didn't go in the front door. I went in the basement, shipping. First person I saw, this is true now, these guys are dead, I'm still going to tell you their names. Anyway, first guy I saw had a cigar in his mouth. It wasn't lit, had a stogie, although you could smoke in the plant at that time, had a stogie, and I said, Tuck Tinsley, first day here? And he said, oh, my name's James Maple, and I've been gone for 5 weeks, and I just got back too. And then he said, see this boot? Some fool ran over my foot with a forklift. And then he said, and there's that fool now. And around the corner comes Pat Bernard. I don't know if y'all remember him, but that was my introduction to being an employee of APH. And it stayed pretty much the same for a good while. but those first 2 days were special. Mike mentioned it, but at the AAR convention in Denver in 2000, I flew there with Bob Brasher. A lot of y'all remember Bob. And they had an exhibit, 32 posters of special people in the field called Pioneers and Leaders of the Blindness Field. 32 posters. Dean Tuttle and a few others had put it together. Bob was enthralled with it. And he said, yeah, my gosh, we need to get this at APH and do something with it. On the flight back, he didn't shut his mouth. I mean, he just the whole time. So I ignored him as much as I could, but when he got back to the printing house, he teamed up with Gary Mudd, sitting right there, and Marinelle McLennan, and I was toast. That was it. I was done. So we went to the board and asked them for space and some money to start up, and we guarantee it will not be APH's. APH will have nothing to do with it. We'll have a committee. So it's not APH's award, it's the field's award. And APH will not have a staff member on the board, and so they were fine. So in 2001 at annual meeting, I announced the Hall of Fame Leaders and Legends of Blindness Field at annual meeting. In 2002, of those original 32 people, 9 were still living. We brought all 9 into Louisville. And Phil Hatlin did the induction. APH people weren't involved with inductions or any of that. And the 9 who were living were inducted in the Hall of Fame. So that's really the way we got involved and the way it got started. A big thing at APH, I'm almost through. A big thing at APH was for the first few years, we met through an acquaintance, Hajime Oba, who was he was with Toyota Motor Corp, or the president of a piece of it. And we invited him to the printing house. And I was with his interpreters. We were walking back. He walked in the front door, and we're just hoping, they'll help us. They had not worked with any other than auto industry. But this was a nonprofit thing. He walked in, got halfway in the plant, and within 10 minutes he was heading out. And I turned to her and I said, we're just too small. He got to the door, and I'll never forget it. He said 6 words. He said, you need help, we will help. So for 3 years, 5 days a week, we had a Toyota engineer in the plant. He saw material not moving, the covers are here, this is here, then you put it together. And they taught us, 3 years they were with us, they taught us Toyota Quality Management, TQM, which for us was the efficiency of continuous flow manufacturing. It's a great honor to be inducted with my great friend Jane. Bob and I went out to see her in Tucson. She was at the University of Arizona, and we were going to bring her to APH. What an addition she was going to be. we bought her a big bottle of wine and took her out to eat and so forth. But it turned out that her mother had moved in with her, and her mother was not well. So Jane did the right thing, and she stayed in Tucson. I was at FSDB 21 years. I was printing house from 89 to 2017, so another 28 years. So my entire 49-year career has been working with people who have not been focused on themselves, Ralph Bartley, have not been focused on money, but have been focused on helping others. Specifically focused on the independence, the freedom, and the equality of blind children. Amazing field. So I am extremely fortunate to have been in this wonderful profession with all of you. Thank you very much for this very special honor. Thank you.
Congratulations to both of our Hall of Fame award winners. And just a brief story. I mean, it's like, there's no brief story about Tuck, but I came to APH. First time I met Tuck was at an annual meeting. I was new EOT, and I didn't know anybody. I mean, I've been in the field my entire career, but I wasn't young, but I was fairly young. And all of you just intimidated me because I was seeing people like Jane and Phil and Kay, and I'm just like going, oh my God, these are the people I've read about. I've read their books, I've read their articles, and I'm like, I do not belong here. So Louisville was playing football that Thursday night when we were doing the reception, and Tuck had a TV set up outside of the event. So and during the reception, so I'm like, okay, I found a place I can hide in the corner, I can watch football and enjoy myself. And I didn't know Tuck from Adam, but every few minutes, this gentleman, stately gentleman, would come out and go, slap me on the back and go, how they doing? How they doing? And I'd give him the update, and he'd watch a couple plays, and he had to go back into the reception and glad hand everybody, but he kept coming back, and I didn't know him. And over the years, I started to put it together. And I've always had the fortune of working for some really amazing leaders, but I always admired Tuck because he was a risk taker. He was a wild card, he was a risk taker, but it was always intentional, calculated risk. And I said, I remember talking to my wife when it was announced that Bob was going to retire, I said, would love to work for someone like that. So with the encouragement of my wife, she said, will you be sorry if you never get the opportunity? I said, yes, I would be sorry. So I asked people around the field, how long does Tuck have? And they said, 3 years, 3 years. I thought, that's perfect. We'll go to Louisville. If we get the job, we'll work at APH 3 years, then we'll go back, pick up our life in Washington State, and continue on. And I kid you not, first day on the job, I got in there, here's your office, here's your desk. About 8:30, he comes in, he goes, what are you doing today for lunch? And I said, I don't know, get a sandwich? He goes, we're going to go out for lunch. I said, okay. About 15 minutes later, what are you doing at break? I said, do we have a break? He says, damn, boy, you're the VP. You can take a break whenever you want. I said, okay, I don't know, whatever. And he says, okay. And he went out and he came back in not but 5 minutes later. He said, I'm just going to tell you now. He says, I'm retiring in 6 months. And he said, and he looked at me, and I'm sure my jaw dropped because I'm thinking, I got 3 years to learn from Tuck. And he goes, would that have made a difference? And I'm like, excuse the French, hell yes, Tuck. But it was, fortunately, it all worked out beautifully, and I got to build upon the foundation that he started at APH and left me armed with amazing people and tools, strong financial base, and it was just the trajectory could only it was almost like he threw the keys to me, and it's like, don't put this thing in, don't put this car into a tree kind of thing. And he had created such a pathway that was easy not to do. And so, Tuck, I really appreciate that, and thank you for that.